thank you, Harvard, for hosting me, and Extension Engine for helping us get this opportunity. A couple clarifications. One, all those things didn't happen at once. So the beach volleyball was many years ago. I was a little bit younger, All right. But yes, I have been fortunate enough to been through several acquisitions over the last about 12 years. 15 years now. I keep forgetting that age thing. So it's been an exciting kind of run. And I've been at different types of startups, all the way from cloud to back when ASP was cloud before cloud was cloud, if anyone remembers what application service providers were, to enterprise software. And I couldn't tell you how more excited I am to be in the Internet of Things space. This is what I believe will spark truly a 21st century industrial revolution. And if we step back for a second and look at the power of the platform that mobile has brought to us, you hear stories of people that are, in almost abject poverty, shacked up living in basements, but they have that one computer and they were able to learn iOS. And there's one story of someone I read in the paper, this guy in Kentucky who was just in that situation. Within 3 years, he went from that state to having a $3 million company based on a $1.99 download with something as simple as putting text over a picture and saving it and sharing it on Facebook. I mean, the power of these types of things to make money and to change people's lives is so prevalent in mobile, but I believe with the Internet of Things and adding in physical products that can interact with anything in our world will actually take that to the next level. So one thing that I want to definitely get out of the way too, Red Sox are playing Game 2 in the World Series. They won 8-1 yesterday. Right on. So it's supposed to be a 2-hour talk. I believe a 1 hour and 15 right around first pitch is about the right thing, so we'll make sure we all get out there, but we will make sure to take a lot of questions as well. So the foundation for this talk was really around taking some of the experiences that I've had in the startup world and being able to share that with you in the context of the Internet of Things. A lot of times at Xively, we really have a platform as a service that helps entrepreneurs of all sizes, from an individual all the way up to multinational conglomerates, build these great revolutionary products. But even the large companies and the divisions inside of them don't necessarily know how to take these things to market. They don't understand the process involved with successfully bringing something together. The technology is only one part of that. So we wanted to not only discuss the Internet of Things, but also take you through a journey of how a product can actually be brought to market. So if we think about how the Internet started, right? Really, wave one was the World Wide Web. Well, after DARPANET, right? So World Wide Web. It's about 350 million PCs annually are still being sold. Now that's on about a 12 to 13% decline year over year because tablets taking over the world, right? But once we got to the point where we moved past just connecting PCs, we moved into connecting people. And that's really the mobile and cloud era. Now we're seeing about 2.32 billion devices shipping every year, and that is growing by 25 or more % every single year. The one thing that's got Microsoft scared completely, and I've spent my time there, is the rise of the tablet and the demise of the PC. Now, those two waves are massive, and they've changed our lives. But I really believe that it's going to pale in comparison to what is the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things is supposed to be around 50 billion objects. 50 billion objects by 2020. You have really a technology combined with the predecessor technologies in cloud and mobile and sensor technologies and all of those things that have now moved to connecting everything in our world. Everything that you see around you, the chair you're sitting on, the roof around us, the pressure sensors, the humidity, temperature, controlling the doors, lights, energy conservation, water flows in the bathroom, everything around you can literally be connected, controlled, and monitored. And that scares me with the NSA out there, but it's going that way anyway. So in the end of it, we start hearing crazy numbers out there. The 20 billion numbers, pretty big. We start hearing economic impact of $4.5 trillion by 2020. Even Cisco is out there claiming that the economic impact will be $14.4 trillion. Well, anything that's actually encroaching on the gross domestic product of the US economy gets me really excited. I bet it's a little bit of hyperbole inside of there, but let's just hope it's 10%, of that size. In any case, this will be the largest technology market ever, or so they say. So it's exciting. The use case opportunities for this are really limitless, right? It's not only something that applies to how we build connected products for sale as well. It's really about enterprise solutions also. So not only using things that I can build and sell to somebody else, like the Fitbit and those types of things, but people want to be able to optimize their businesses as well. So being able to create solutions for those companies is a huge market potential as well. Now, the use cases that you can build for, and we'll get into what these mean in a little bit, is literally limitless. It really is limitless. Now, that's a double-edged sword. Some of the positives of the limitless is great. I could build anything my imagination requires. But then on the other side of that, I pick up a blank piece of paper and a pencil, and it's like, what am I going to create, right? So really thinking through some of that will give you some tools that will help you with that as well. Now, some of these use cases can be predict and streamline service and maintenance, optimize the supply chain, access dark data to unlock engagement patterns and things like that. Dark data was a really cool term I just learned. We sit around this room right now, there's really not very many sensors I can see around here. So what am I learning from this room? Until you guys talk to me. Nothing, right? There's data that is here. It's all around us. We can learn about it, but there's nothing that's here to collect it right now. Imagine that in a retail space. Why do people in Best Buy, and Best Buy just proved this out, why do people when they walk into Best Buy always turn right? They always look right, they always turn right. What's interesting is they just found this out and started, based on that very simple usage pattern that they detected, putting higher ticket items, more information, putting more modern things on the walls like Skype and those types of things, even though they have very little to do with Skype. And it gave a different impression, and everything off to the left are more pedantic things like appliances and stuff like that. Just that little bit of data completely changed how Best Buy is perceived and how their products are delivered. Imagine if you could censor up how somebody walks in the store after that. Where do they go? What happens in a retail space like a clothing store? What rounders do they go to first? How many actual things do you look through before you go to the next rounder, and why? How many things do you try in? What's the average of that? All of those things are hidden from us right now, but have a potential to fundamentally change how our businesses work. Asset tracking availability, product activation in general in management, but one of the interesting ones is sales, service, and marketing flow. Because when I actually sell something to somebody, there's a lot more data that's in there than just the sale, than just the transaction. Who did I sell it to? Where did I sell it to? Is there a reason why I can understand that they bought something like that? What about the sales mechanism itself? Can I service that in a particular way that's predictive so I can make sure that that machine continues to run and sell and not fall off the map? And then if I understand the person that's buying something in their pattern, then I could probably market to that person. Right? So all of this data is around us. It is incredibly powerful. Now, we've already been in an M2M use case. There's already machine to machine that's been around there for a long, long time. Now the question is, well, Internet of Things, machine to machine, is that like infrastructure and cloud now? Is it just a marketing term? A little bit, but there are some fundamental differences there. But anything that was really expensive as a case up in the M2M world that cost thousands of dollars and millions, to actually create a solution, we actually have the revolution of the cheap now. Things are actually coming down in price, and those use cases can extend to a much larger audience. So now you have the opportunity as entrepreneurs to actually look at those cases that were inaccessible before and just do the same thing at a cheaper price point and sell it and still make money. It's a beautiful thing. So opportunities are really everywhere. As we walk around, there's more than 1 billion lampposts in the world. Yep, they have light, and they turn on the light, and they turn off the light, right? But what if you could interact with them? What if they could interact with you? We all carry our unique identifier around with us. It's our phone. Does anyone not have a phone? I always have to ask that. Does anyone not have a phone? Wow. All right. Someone get that lady a phone. You gotta have more. You gotta have more than one phone. Somebody's got more than one phone. Wait, I have more than one phone. Anyway, so this is quickly turning into the digital identity of us. We walk around with this near-field communication. All of those things are starting to come up as a technology where we roll into something like this. It could just know who we are. And now we have a way to interact with these things. What are the business opportunities to create these things and to sell them with 1 billion in the world? And that's just a lamppost. So really, there are so many ways to look at the opportunities here. You know, logistics and delivery, route optimization, those types of things are a massive market. Smart cities, you know, being able to conserve oil because I know a parking spot is open for me and exactly where that is. I don't have to drive around for it. Healthcare, limitless, you know, almost in healthcare. You know, being able to monitor diabetes patients and their medication, or asthma inhalers, and where one is in case I need one in an emergency. Where are all the crash carts located around a particular hospital? Are they in optimized locations for who actually needs them? I mean, all of these things are possible. Energy consumption, a massive one, especially with green energy. Understanding consumption, sustainability, all of these things are opportunities. And certainly fun. You know, there are so many different things that you can wire up in a game situation. And we have one customer of ours who actually wired up, you know, the claw game, right? The claw game that you put dollar bills in and it never gives you the stupid squishy toy, right? That one. Well, in a nefarious plot to have a cash tornado in the arcade room, you know, and this is our customer. We're not recording this, right? I love you guys. But in a nefarious plot for the cash tornado for your kids, they have a gumball machine, 300,000 gumball machines around the US actually. 50,000 of these claw machines, and they actually wired them up so they can say, okay, if the lights flash on, how much money do I actually get in? And by the way, I can instantly recognize that revenue instead of 90 days and having to collect it. And then if I flash in a certain pattern, they have a sensor that detects who walks by, how many times they walk by, how many people, did they stop, how long they stop. And you correlate that with how much money. And then if all of a sudden you stop after you don't get the squishy toy, and they see the pattern of turning, does that gumball machine light turn on, and all of a sudden they go over and they get business at the gumball machine? And then when you get the gumball machine, all of a sudden does the next arcade game's light turn on? And all of a sudden there's walking around, dropping money. Again, nefarious plot. But it can actually look at usage patterns and actually influence those things. But I have to say it, the Internet of Things is irrelevant. I'm just going to say it. So good night. Go Sox. Thank you for coming. There's food. The food's good. It's really good, actually. All right. So I just went through explaining why the Internet of Things is massively relevant, and now I'm saying it's irrelevant. So thank you, no one, for throwing food at me, you know, at this point. But what I really mean to say is that simply connecting things on the Internet is not enough. Simply connecting something is not enough. Now, we run into this with a lot of entrepreneurs that are like, I'm going to Internet connect, you know, something, and it's going to be great. Okay, that's cool, but what does it do? What's the experience? What is the end result you're really going after? Right? M2M has been here and has done that, has made point solutions. But now Internet of Things is different. Right? First of all, I said earlier, power to the people through the revolution of the cheap. I could go to Radio Shack today and actually get an Arduino board for less than 20 bucks. Oh my God, you know, mini computer connected to the internet, connect sensors, and away we go, wahoo. There's, you know, cloud platforms, all these things that can make my products. Awesome. But again, just connecting something isn't enough. You need to create experiences with broad appeal, and we'll look at what experiences mean. But in the end of it, in order to really have an Internet of Things, things that freely connect, you have to have unfettered access to really allow things to come together easily without a heavy lift to make that happen. So solutions can come together and be meaningful for the people that are using them. Now, today, we seem to have intranets of things on the internet. And that's really kind of the M2M legacy. But the Internet of Things promises a whole different world for that. So let's look at what that means. So we get snow here. I think it's going to come soon, kind of soon, because it's getting cold outside, which as a skier I'm really excited about. But the 6-foot snow drifts I sometimes get with the nor'easter aren't great. So a snow thrower really helps, not to mention it's a lot of fun. You kind of throw the snow at the dog, freak them out. You know, it's a good time, right? But if I internet connect a snow thrower, so what? So what? On, off, I see where it's gone, I know where it's gone, I put it there. You know, I see that it's been through so many duty cycles, the Spark plugs are firing at 700 degrees. What does that even mean? I'm not a snow thrower expert. I just put the thing on and go, right? So a product like that, doomed to fail. We just saw this with a company called Hunter Fans. Actually, they went through a whole Internet of Things exercise and Internet connected their fans. They had a major infrastructure problem. Boom. They punted their whole IoT strategy. They were so traumatized over that. But at the heart of it, fan on, fan off. Okay, maybe. I think it's a little bit better with your heating system, but it didn't really have the legs underneath it. But let's change the perspective on that. What if I wasn't selling an Internet of Things connected, Internet connected snow thrower, but someone like Lowe's or Sears or Home Depot was selling clean, safe driveways during winter? That's different. That's an experience. That's something I can get behind because I want a clean, safe driveway for my family when I need it. So yes, an internet-connected snow thrower is part of that solution, right? But instead of it just telling me directly its data, which I have no idea what to do with that or what it means, but it connects in through a cloud to the snow thrower experts back at Lowe's or Home Depot. And of course, they wear lab coats and stethoscopes, at the snow thrower experts. Stock photos, gotta love it. But they know that if my spark plugs burn at 700 degrees, they're probably starting to misfire. Well, you know what? They're coupled in with a set of storm warnings. That data comes in through WeatherBug, Weather Channel, something like that. Oh, look, nor'easter's going to be here in 2 days. They run a set of analytics that tells them, oh, give me all of the snow throwers that are out of operating specification and why. And let's send an alert out that says, storm alert, storm coming in 2 days. It looks like your spark plugs are going to misfire or are misfiring. Push a button here to order. Push this button to get a PDF to show you how to change your spark plugs, or push here and we'll have somebody come out and actually change them for you. That is a completely different dynamic, right? It is now guaranteeing in a new cooperative that I'm going to have a clean, safe driveway for my family in those 2 days because I know my snow thrower is working. That is meaningful. I now have a different dynamic between the vendor, the consumer, and the product itself. And now that can become a service that I have instead of just buying a product. That is far more valuable, has a far greater effect, especially with loyalty when it comes to the customers, because now it feels like we're in it together. There's a reason why inbound marketing on social media, hey, come here. There we go. There's a reason why inbound marketing through social media is so powerful. It's because people trust other people who are your friends, or you think you're your friends, to tell you about something. If I go outbound and say, with a sandwich board and go, buy my snow thrower, people are like, whoa, man, take it easy. But if my friend goes, hey, dude, you ought to check out the snow thrower, you're like, oh, cool, thanks, right? It's the same thing with this. It gives you this feeling that Sears or Lowe's or Home Depot is in it with me to make sure my family's safe. And the halo effect from that can be huge. What other products can you put out there that you can actually trust and say, I trust this vendor, and they're in it with me? So what I want to challenge you in is to think about things in this dynamic. What is the experience? And how can you have an experience-based thing as you move through the eureka moment? Normally I get them in the shower. It's a weird place. Get up in the morning. I think it has something to do with the sleep. You wake up and all of a sudden it's like, I've got an idea. All of a sudden the fireworks go off and the angels start singing and it's that great moment. And you're like, sweet. But again, you got to step back and think about what is the experience for that. Not just I'm going to internet connect my bar of soap. It's like it could be clean body all day. Who knows? I don't know. So unfortunately, there's things that look like this that actually come after that eureka moment, right? This is an approach to building not only messaging and product, but a business approach to actually take that thing to market. And what we've seen in a lot of the current state of the industry when it comes to Internet of Things, it's a nascent market, it's early on. You have people that really understand the technology, but may not necessarily understand how to go to market, how to take things to market. You have others that really see the vision from a business perspective, and they really know what they can do to get that stuff to market, but they don't really understand how to build it, because IT can't build this. This is a new technology, this is a new thing, right? Now, there are some people that can self-service it. but they tend to be very small companies, 3 to 5 people. Probably a lot of those people are over in that room or in this audience, which is a good thing. But what I want to share today is really how you take that from that idea to market. So the first thing that you really want to go through, I know everyone wants to run out and build, and that's good. You want to go out and start working on those things, and that's great. It teaches you a lot as you go through that process. But the most important thing to start is to really start doing research, understanding what the market and product requirements are. How many of you have heard of a market requirements document, a product requirements document? Okay? They're a very good thing, although they can be really a pain to do and to think through. Because what they do is they make you sit down and understand the use cases and requirements to really make something valuable. It helps you think through that experience. Now, when I come at a market, I always go out and do these kind of things. So not only do I talk to analysts, I talk to press and read the press and see where the press is actually mainly covering things. I look at current potential markets, do strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats analysis of what my idea is. Look at goals and priorities for what I want to do with this. Look at what customers are out there for my competition, or maybe if I have current customers, what they're doing, and I'm trying to expand my product set. What are the current and past product offerings that have been successful and failed that I've done or have in that space that I'm looking at doing? What events are out there that actually tell me about these things? And then what's really interesting too is looking at where the money's going. Where is venture capital interested in putting its money? So being able to go out and look at not only different angel areas, crowdfunding, looking at the main venture capital portfolios of a wide range of different stage companies, it tells you a lot about where things are going. So the research is critical in really understanding and not just saying in a vacuum, hey, I got a great idea to internet connect my soap bar, but then just saying, yep, that's a great idea. Keep telling myself that, You need to go out and really litmus test these things. Beyond that, being able to define who your target constituencies are, what the scenarios are, and the issues that they're facing is key. Because that will really hone exactly what you want to build before you get too far down the line. Now, what we have up here is an example one from Xively. This is actually out of our framework document that we did starting back, middle of last year for the first product, our next product iteration we did that was out in May. So we went through and looked at all of the different constituencies that are interested in using a platform as a service to accelerate and simplify their Internet of Things innovation. So between consumers and hacktivists and prosumers and commercial product manufacturers, enterprise IT, service providers, solution providers, component manufacturers, end-to-end vendors, academia, research academia, military, government, all of these things, and actually more, we found out, really are interested in what we do. Now, what you don't want to do, though, is sit there and say, let's create something for every single one of those. Because at the end of the day, they can be bucketized into strategic targeting that you can take not only your product, but your messaging and your marketing. So from here, we actually took all of those actual different constituencies, and you can see most of them are here, and we bucketized them into 4 areas so that we can really hone what our product was going to and what our messaging was going to go to. And that started forming our go-to-market. It also starts informing how we monetize the product, who we want to partner with. So all of this builds from that foundation of research to get you there. So here we have, again, this is working off of Xively's. We have partners, product vendors, enterprise solutions, and developers. Right? Those were the 4 targets. Now, what's interesting is that developers are certainly in the product vendors, and they certainly are in the enterprise solutions, and they're certainly inside of the partners. Right? But why are they called out separately? Because you have to speak to developers differently. Right? I can't talk to them like a business decision maker. They'll never go past the first page of my site, or the first page of the tech part of my site. So it's important to realize not only who you're building for, but how you talk to them and who they are. So from there, you start developing a market-focused roadmap. I can't stress enough the market-focused. Now, a lot of companies that we go into, and some of the successful startups I've been in have been turnarounds. Right? We've gone in, they've gone down a certain product line, they've missed the market, not by a lot, but an inch in missing the market is a lot. Right? But you go in and make sure that a market-focused and tested roadmap for what you have is out there. You've done it, you've researched it based upon all of the underlying work here. Again, work to an MVP. Now what I mean by MVP, minimum viable product, right? Because guess what? We don't know it all, right? We're not going to know it all. The second you get out the door, you're going to learn something new, right? So being able to get out, have something that can be successful in the market, and then iterating on that is important. So it's especially important when we start looking at what everybody's problem in the Internet of Things is, when we start building these things. Now, an end-to-end solution, takes these kinds of steps. Starting from left to right, I have to build a smart module and make choices inside of there. What's my platform? ARM Mbed versus Arduino versus Raspberry Pi. Is it a microcontroller? Is it a full mini computer? All of these choices are seemingly endless with the thousands of platforms that are out there today. Now, I then roll that into my smart object. The smart object has to have logic inside of it to do something, right? Now, based upon the earlier research that you've done and your market requirements, all of that, you actually have a blueprint for which you can create a smart object that matches the scenarios and needs of your target constituents. So from there, you have to find a network operator. Now, that's normally if you're doing, GSM, 2G, 3G, 4G, LTE, Wi-Fi, connected Ethernet. There's all choices out there, right? Again, understanding the market and their needs will give you a good choice there. It's been a little tough with some of the carriers out there to connect over cellular, but they're starting to come around. Verizon actually just came out with a pretty cool plan for a GSM-based connection model that was down to just a couple bucks a month for a device. But very low data rate, but that's all you need for a lot of these things. So they're starting to come around a little bit. You then have to consider what's the platform, and that's these next three that are actually up here. So between the platform, enabling capabilities, the applications that will come in, building the interfaces themselves, do you use REST, do you use SOAP, what's the security model for it? All of those things have to be built. What platform are you going to place that on? Is it going to be Java? Is it going to be on Rackspace? Is it going to be on Amazon? Hopefully it'll be on Xively. We help with a lot of this. What about the service providing? CRM, billing. All of these things are the realities of what you have to put in to get a product, even a relatively simple product, out into the market. And then, of course, you have to sell it, and a user has to buy it. Then they have to activate it, right? So all of these things are required and have to be thought of as you're moving forward. Now, as part of this, we are seeing, from our perspective, that the IoT is maturing in a particular set of steps. Now, it's not all happening at once, but over the next 5 years, we are seeing that this is where it's progressing. Over the next 2 years, we're seeing that obviously you got to connect a product, to the internet. Yes, I said that that's not enough alone, but you got to start there, right? Companies are then realizing the data they are getting is optimizing their businesses. After that, and then we see that after about 2 years, they realize that all of that data that has helped optimize their business can let them transform their business models. Instead of doing something, buying something, it becomes insert word as a service. Everything becomes a service. And that's a completely different model with a completely different revenue stream that actually can be as much as 5x when compared to just selling product. And then the interconnection effect we see is about 5 years off. The ability to take solutions, two completely orthogonal solutions, and be able to easily and without code or a business arrangement tie them together in a meaningful solution for me and what exactly my needs are is really going to occur, and that's when it gets incredibly exciting, even more exciting than it is today. So imagine this world, working with a customer that actually has a baby jumper that has a respiration monitor and an accelerometer built into the baby jammies, right, in the baby jumper. So if the baby falls over, it registers that, and if it stops breathing for more than a certain amount of time, it texts you. Great. If my kid's having a SIDS level issue, don't text me. Turn on every fire alarm in my house, right? Today that's a big business arrangement because the fire alarm company is not going to make baby jumpers, and the baby jumpers aren't going to make fire alarms, right? So if they want to make that work, well, business development guys start talking, developers start coding, security starts happening, and hey, point-in-time solution, awesome. That's great. Well, you know what though? If it's 3 a.m. and the fire alarms are going off because my baby's having an issue, and there's no lights on, I'm probably going to run into the wall and kill myself before I even get there. So I probably want all the lights to come on too. Great. Three-way business development conversation, which we can all, when some of us can test in this room, that doesn't always work well. So, and then the same thing. Eventually, imagine a world where I can get to the point where I buy a fire alarm, a set of fire alarms, internet enabled. I buy the baby jammies, and I buy a Philips Hue light bulb, and I turn around and through a simple little macro, I just go, oh, I know what they all are, because I'm at the top of the security chain, and I can interconnect those. Baby stops breathing for more than 5 seconds, turn all of these on. Done. Right? That's the future we have to get to. That's the future we need to think about as entrepreneurs as we start developing these type of products. Now that future can be done with open standards and those types of things. That will help, that will shape up over time. But the mentality of us as designers coming at these things needs to be that this is the eventual maturity curve, and let's be prepared for that. So let's take this through an example, okay? Now, I like to call these things the IoT primitives. They're the building blocks in which you start to build a solution, right? And again, we talked earlier about kind of that white piece of paper that says, you know, hey, great, I got a pencil and, all right, write a story. You know, build a product. You know, these things can help you think about that because again, opportunities everywhere around us. So some of the primitives include, is it full or is it empty? Or somewhere in between. Is it open, is it closed? Is it on, is it off? Is it hot or is it cold? Or somewhere in between. What's the rate of flow that it has? What's the pressure? What's its location? What's its use? And can I control it? Most of these things are now controllable, right? So combining these things together can now start to spark imagination to actually get a solution. So a lot of people in the Northeast still have heating oil, right? Especially up a little bit of New Hampshire, things like that. And you know, you just got to go check the oil and make sure it's there. And of course, if they see on Channel 7 News that nor'easter's coming in 2 days, what happens? Emergency phone call from the entire region, down to the fuel company, and everybody come. Okay, that's not exactly an optimized way to deliver fuel, right? It ends up with unpredictable results. It's insufficient and difficult to optimize, and oil futures on the market can't really be very predictable. You can go by past data, but you're not really sure. The margin of error could be pretty high. So this is a big opportunity. So if we took the primitive of flow control or a flow rate and full and empty, and we combine that as an internet-connected solution, and we started taking data from that. So I know how full is the tank, what's the rate at which it's used, and what seasons. That data can be captured to the internet fairly simply, and it's not a lot of data. So now what you get is centralized monitoring of a whole area set of heating oil. So you can start doing consumption analytics, and you can say, well, if it's a colder winter, how often do they use their fuel? How fast does it go out? What's their overall fuel limit? So then you can start saying things like, well, I can get predictive about my delivery pattern. Because if I know a storm's coming and averages under 25 degrees, that this person uses X amount of gallons per day, the storm's supposed to only last 2 days, their tank is half full, that's enough for 7 days, they're fine, I don't have to touch them. Let me get to the other customers that actually need that heating oil who are outside of those parameters to actually make it through that storm, right? So, of course, you're still going to get the calls. I need my oil. No, don't worry. We got it. You're cool. All right. It reassures the customer. But then you can start to optimize the business because now you can start tying in things like the weather pattern. And you can start knowing not only what's that weather coming, what it's going to be like, but historically what it's been like and what the flow rate has been like for an area. The almanac says for this winter that we're going to get hammered. Again, I'm a skier. I can't wait. But what does that mean when compared to 2 years ago when it was incredibly light winter, right? What was the consumption rate? What was all of that? And the Farmer's Almanac's not exactly an internet-connected thing. Well, it kind of is, but I don't think you're really going to do spot pricing based on that. But there are a lot of other things in historical data that will help you through predictive analytics understand truly how I can optimize my rate, what my real consumption is going to be. That allows me to optimize my supply chain. It allows me to use less. What happens to heating oil during the summer? It goes bad sometimes. So I got to clean that out. That's wasted money, right? So the optimization of that business is huge. But at the same time now, the customer no longer has to buy gallons of oil as needed. This becomes fuel as a service. The customer doesn't have to worry about it. It's almost like electricity. Amount you use, this is how much I pay. Natural gas already has this. What's my rate? I have it, I just pay it. And you can actually normalize your bill as well now with natural gas. And just pay about the same amount over the 12 months instead of a really high bill or a higher bill during the winter months and none during the summer. Right? Now you can do that with heating oil, and that's something that has to be delivered. So that can completely transform how the business model works. But now, even more exciting is more for the end user. So we actually have a customer that's working with us that's a restaurant chain, has 400 sites, and they use 5,000 liter tanks for fuel. Now this is for propane, so it's a little about our heating oil example, but they still have to deliver the propane to those tanks. Right? Now, before, the fuel company often came in and underfilled the tanks by about 10% roughly. But they still charged a full amount to that customer. The cost is about $10,000 a site a year in fuel overcharge. Right? It's a decent amount of money, right? But so the restaurant chain replaced the mechanical propane tank gauges with internet connected gauges and a monitoring service. The tanks are now completely refilled because they know they're watching, completely refilled twice a week. The savings at $10,000 a year, over 400 sites, is $4 million a year for that chain. I mean, that's an incredible amount of money for a pretty simple change, right? Now think about that as entrepreneurs. What if you could come to a restaurant chain and say, hey, $4 million, I see that you have 400 restaurants in your chain. I bet you they're underfilling your tanks. You go out, do a quick reading. Literally, there are sonar sensors that you just on the side of the tank and bing, boom. I know how much you're full or empty. Yeah, just leave that on the back of the tank next time they fill up. Yep, 10% short. My solution will turn around and save you $4 million a year. Pay me $1 million. But the ROI is there. Right? It saves them money. It's a money-making opportunity for you as well. Everybody wins. Sustainability wins. It's all a win-win. And I hate cliches. But so if you take it to the next level, right, the interconnection effect can have a profound effect on this overall. So instead of now a heating oils futures buyer sitting on the market doing spot trading, instead of just kind of guessing and seeing what the data kind of looked like and maybe off as much as 15, 20% in that pricing, he can now have an accurate picture and be predictive about where those things are, the consumption of that, and actually get a much lower margin of error on actually doing the spot pricing. So now everybody wins on that. He's going to make more money because he's more accurate on that, and all the puts, calls, all the stuff they do with that. But then the customer wins out on that because their contracts are more accurate. They're paying less money. So now that data comes together, and not only is the customer winning, the vendor's winning. People are using less money. Some people are making a little bit of that savings in return for that. And now, I use less oil and I know exactly what I need to use. So sustainability wins and conservation wins. Right? Together, looking at this cycle and thinking about it in these terms and building products in these terms with experiences in mind is what will actually drive these outcomes. Not just internet connecting something. They're powerful outcomes. So, go back to our example. We've built our market-focused roadmap and are starting to build our minimum viable product. The next step is really, how are we going to take this to market? How are we going to monetize it? And who are the partners that are going to help us with this? So, first of all, in go-to-market planning, I can't stress enough how much stealth is your friend. I've seen some companies, luckily I haven't been involved with them except for one. Actually, we have Janice here who's on my team as well, Neocleus. The guy was out talking about the product that's going to change the world, literally banging his shoe on a freaking desk, Khrushchev style or something, and he hadn't even built it yet. It's like, come on, dude. I think others will notice. It's a great idea. But so, of course, there was competition that came up with that. It caused problems for them. But stealth is your friend. Only talk to people that you think can help you. NDAs are great. You're not going to be able to do that with a venture capital company, but make sure that you keep it quiet. Get the information you need, but don't trumpet it until it's time. Build pressure. That's what you want to be able to do, and then have that pop when you come out in the market. We'll look at that in a moment. So when you're going to market, remember that a line of business, the application typically, is the profit center. They don't have to actually do bake-offs if they don't want to typically. They can, in an enterprise, they can say, yep, I'm making the money, I want that. They don't have to do some sort of RFP or anything like that in a lot of cases. They control the purse strings because they're the profit center. However, ops ends up being a cost center, right? So they're the data center guys. So when you go to a data center guy and say, oh, well, we want to put this in, that's great. Let's bake it off against these 5 things. And of course, 6 months later, congratulations, you win. Now here's Rocco, the procurement agent, that's going to come over and work you over. No, but wait, I got ROI. He doesn't know ROI. It's like Rocco just wants the extra like 5 points because Rocco ends up getting incentivized and bonused on how much he saves. Every point he saves off of a deal goes back to his bonus, right? So it's much better to deal with the line of business if you can, as opposed to ops. Now there is money obviously to be made in ops, but it's just something to be aware of when you're doing go-to-market planning. And then determine your route to market. Now there's a lot of different ways to get to market, and some of these combine together. Now they're not the only ways inside of here, but these are a lot of the ones I've dealt with. There's some other ones you can come up with as well. So OEMs, being white labeled into a particular solution. That's what Xively actually does. So we get baked in as the infrastructure. You don't even see it's us, except on the box you'll see Xively capable, right? Direct sale, so you got to hire a sales force or do e-com, that sort of stuff. Solution selling, where you actually sell the solution itself and you go out and help through a consulting exercise build a solution that includes your product. Or go through a channel. Actually, Citrix Systems, $10.6 billion company, actually they just got hammered the other week though. They ended up with a whole channel solution, and they grew from literally 30 people to $10.6 billion company pretty quickly by just selling through the channel. It's a heavy lift a lot of times, a lot of faith, and you got to put a lot of skin in that game, but it is possible to do that. Now, a lot of these times, these things can be combined together, right? You can be an OEM solution that sells through a channel. You can sell through a value-added reseller. You can do solution sells with a systems integrator. Again, these are opportunities for you to look and see what really is the best way to take your product to market. Now, monetization is how do I actually price something and make sure not only do I have the budget and the runway to get to profitability and make sure that I can actually go forward, but at the same time, I understand the true cost of what I'm bringing to the market, and for funding, if I'm going for funding, I know what I need to ask for. So you need to understand the true cost of your service, and that's just not, well, it's this piece of plastic part and this little Arduino part and this service. It's what's the head count, what's the load on the head count. It's your whole profit and loss and budget projected out 18 months. Right? That's normally how I go about 18 months, 2 years, even though that will fluctuate. But you got to do a best effort to understand that, right? And then you have to understand the real market potential. The real market potential and the price points. Because I've heard enough times people go, well, it's $1 trillion market. If I capture just 0.5%, that's $50 billion. Woohoo, let's go, Yeah, easy, cowboy. It's like, hold on. A lot of times venture capital companies will see right through that if you're going for funding. They're like, yeah, no. What's the true market of what you actually have? One of the angel companies I'm looking at or working with, sporting goods company, as you heard I played volleyball, came up with a sporting sleeve that actually protective medical compression, has some padding on it. And my buddy the other day talked to me and said, hey, well we can, the volleyball is the number 1 or 2 sport in the world and we'll sell it all over the place and we'll get this. He started going down this path. I'm like, whoa, time out. We don't have the budget to market worldwide. We have the budget to market in the US. You just cut off 70% of the market. We're starting there. So let's back off the budget projections and let's work off a realistic place that we can go. So adding that realism into that will save you a lot of headache down the road because you're going to be conservative in your numbering. Understand that. And then really understand, are you a Vicodin or are you a vitamin? Now, these are 2 really important things, and I'm not just talking about on a Saturday night and a Sunday morning, right? I don't know how you guys party. But so a Vicodin is something that's solving pain. It's solving pain for you today. People who have pain need a solution. The pricing for that's very different than if it's a vitamin. If it's a vitamin, it's just something, it'll help me understand a little bit more, and that's cool. But the first things that go during tough economic times are the vitamins. The things that always sell and seem to be recession-proof is Vicodin. Right? How powerful is your solution? What pain does it solve? This also goes back to that beginning research. You know, one consultant I had worked with around messaging and talked about, talk to your customers, put out these scenarios, understand them, and put them into the pain coat. You know, sharp glass and make them roll around in their pain so they feel it and they tell you what it's like and empathize with them. And then you build your solution, your message to solve that pain. And then you've got them on the hook, right? Getting a little nefarious selling technique. But anyway, the point is that if you can solve pain, it's worth more. So understand that about your solution as well. And remember, price is market and product specific. You may have the greatest consumer product in the world, but if your competition doesn't get above $100, you're not going to sell it for $500, right? You may be able to. It's going to be a tougher hoe, but if it's $100, maybe sell for $199. You have to really understand those aspects of the market. Again, Vicodin or vitamin really helps with that as well. Now, partners are an interesting thing because you really want to choose strategic partners. Of course, you're all thinking, duh, of course you want to have strategic partners, right? But not all partners are the same, and not all partner integrations are the same, right? Now, we have a good partnership with Extension Engine. You know, they're going to do design for us. We're going to give them, you know, a great platform to do it on. It's going to be a win-win scenario together, and we already have prospects on that. That's great. But then there are other partners out there that have Barney deals, right? How many of you heard of Barney deals, right? You know who Barney is, right? The purple dinosaur. I love you, you love me. You know, a Barney deal is just a press release that has no meat. It's like, oh, great, I love you too. And then it just goes away, right? So it's great in the press. I can put it on a website, fine. You know, that's okay. They have their purposes sometimes as well. But if you're coming up with a new product, a new service, you want to try and focus on things that will really propel you going forward. Now, as part of that, small company plus small company partnerships equal little return. You know, it's just, it's unfortunate. You know, I've had in the earlier days, I'm like, yeah, this other startup's got a great idea. Together we can take this solution. You know, unfortunately, a wiser mind looked at me and just went, yeah, no, but they don't reach anybody. You know, you want to spend dollars and time? Time's precious when you're in a startup. I don't sleep as much as it is, let alone in startups. You know, none of us do. So do you want to put it with another small company that can't really propel you? You know, really what you want to do is partner with people. You know, you want to build to go public, but you want to partner with someone who can acquire you as well. Now, you don't build for acquisition. I really believe those days are gone, right? Because you just do things so strangely, you know, to be able to do that. If you build a solid company going forward to go public, then you have something that is at the most attractive state for someone to acquire you if you want to go that path. Right? Now, I've been through, what, 6 acquisitions now. I'll tell you, it's a lot of fun. You know, there's nice moments in there, that's for sure. But, you know, what if you're Benioff and you sold out for $100 million? You know what Benioff made this year, or this last year? $106 million. He's, you know, a multi-billionaire. Zuckerberg, his pay for this year, because Facebook went public, $2.3 billion. Awesome. You know, that there are choices there, right? It's hard to pass up, you know, what, Softricity was $237 million. It's hard to look at that and go, oh, yeah, no. You know, but every situation is different. So once you understand, wait, where are we? Sorry, I went forward. So understanding about looking for synergies is really important in larger partners, but the most important concept is surfing their wave. So for us right now, LogMeIn is about a $785 million market cap. We're public on the NASDAQ, LogM. Check it out. It's great. Stock more than doubled 10 months. It's been pretty good so far. But you look at us, we are a drop in the bucket compared to Salesforce, to Microsoft, to Cisco, right? Right now, you know, my marketing budget, better than when I was with startups, but at the same time, I have to do more with less. Now, Cisco is coming at this pretty hard with something called the Internet of Everything. So Internet of Things, Internet of Everything, God, what's the GE's? Industrial Internet. Pick your marketing term du jour, it's just more stuff on the internet, right? But they all want to capture it because they know the size of this market. So Cisco just dumped $100 million in marketing into this Internet of Everything. It's only 5% of the actual search term, 70.1% is actually Internet of Things, but hey, okay, you got to try. 100 million will buy you a lot. They just put $200 million into a consulting organization. Do you know what Cisco has right now in the Internet of Everything? Nothing. They don't have anything right now. But they're coming, believe me, they're coming hard. They'll come out in about March or something like that. But anyway, the point is, they have a tsunami wave of $100 million of marketing. You know what? And I've got enough of a board to actually ride that wave, to take marketing and ride in with it and find ways so that when I get into a story, it's, oh, the Internet of Things players, Cisco, GE, and Xively. And I can do that for something that's a $1 million budget, not a $100 million budget, because they're making that wave happen. It's almost as good as having that budget, to some extent, by just being mentioned inside of that line, right? I get the cred for that. We just got, our PR company ended up getting us into BBC Newsnight, right? Newsnight's like the Anderson Cooper kind of equivalent inside of the UK, right? They did a whole 8-minute expose, and there's the CTO of Cisco UK and the CTO of McAfee talking about it. And there's me. I'm like, Xively, hi. It's VP of Product Strategy, for a company that's, 1,000th the size of what these guys are, right? So being able to pick your partners, finding the right spots, finding the right synergies, getting in ways and speaking languages and being a thought leader that can get you to surf those waves also gets you noticed. And you can take advantage of those things. Surfing the waves, look for those. So then, once you get through that kind of strategy, then you have to learn how to talk about it. How are you going to talk in the market about these solutions that makes you sound different? You can't say the same things. You have to say some of the same things, but you got to say them differently. You got to make people look at you and go, oh, wow, cool. Oh, you did that? Oh, wow, that's different. And even the best is, what the hell is that? Because then they're still going to come and try and find out what you're talking about. If it's the worst thing can be something incredibly vanilla, where it's just like, oh yeah, I know what that is. No one's coming to your site then. No one's going to spend minutes on your site for that. Right? So with that in mind, the way that we approach, and I say we because Janice and I have been working together, 12 years, 13 years now? And this is how we've worked both in small companies, in Microsoft. This is how we did the Microsoft Desktop Optimization Pack. We sold a company called Softricity, which pioneered application virtualization. We were down on Congress Street back when, that's where certain people got the good drugs. It was like it's a militarized zone down there. Now it's all like the seaport and everything. It's kind of a really hip place. Thank God, because we're back down there working again. But, Microsoft, or Softricity acquired us because we went through these types of processes and we're talking about something very differently. It's not just management of apps. It was the ability to actually have apps anywhere you need them, instantly on demand, and they wouldn't break anything. Starting talking about things in a much different way. So we go through things by, remember, we did the research before that said, what's our target segment? Who are we going after? But now we need to understand what are the benefits by that target segment. Each of those, what are they looking for? What's their scenarios and issues we know, but what benefits do we give that are unique, and how do we speak about those things in a different way that not only gets them to go, that's interesting, but cock their head and then want to learn more. That rolls up into what we call the messaging pillars. Technically there's 4 of them, or typically there's 4 of them. There can be 3. They're the legs of the stool for your value proposition. They talk about, we always like to use the first one that tells more about what you do. The next one tells about the next great step you can take. The third one talks about the ROI. And then the fourth one is the mountain of a vision, the dream that sits there and goes, wow, part your hair back. And you either get people that go, wow, I want to take that ride, that's great. Or they step back and go, no way, I'll debate you on it. And then eventually they come back around. I love the debate. But if you streamline it that way and talk about things differently, then when you build a value proposition, people will care. They'll get something that says, not only will I solve your solution or give you a solution for your problem as a first step right now, but then you'll want to take that ride with me because the rest of that shows this vision that 15 years from now, they're going to look back when you're CEO of the company and go, that guy had vision. That's the point. He's the one, or she's the one, that transformed this company. Right? And that gets people hooked. The toughest part of this is trying to get it into 100 words, and then into 50 words, and then into 25 words, and then bring a value proposition out that's very succinct. I think Janice, I, and probably about 5, 6 different people in the different teams over time have all wrestled around and pulled each other's hair out over single words. It really comes down to that sometimes. We all get beers afterwards, so it's fine. But then once you get past that positioning statement that really rings true, that you can say to somebody in an elevator and they get what you want, what you mean, and then you get to the tagline, 4 or 5 words that really succinctly brings it together. You start from the bottom and you work up. But when you tell the story, you work from the top and move down. Right? So when you build the website, whatever your name is, the tagline, position statement, value proposition. And that's how you start. I can't stress to you how important this is and how overlooked this is in a lot of companies. People are so cool, especially product-driven companies, they jump out and go, feature list, see, check, 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 check. It's like, wait a minute, that's not value. Those are features, right? Let's talk value because that's what people want. What's the experience? What's the effect on their business or their lives? Talk about it in that way, it's a bit different and you'll hook them. Now, beyond that, you then start coming up with your marketing campaigns. There's only two boxes left. We're almost there. So, marketing strategy for me, I kind of like to be a little animated. I think we all got that because I really believe that if you build companies, you get customers. But if you build cults, you get believers. Apple, cult, right up until Steve Jobs passed, unfortunately. Right? That guy could command a room. People believed in the power of Jobs. He got up there. He showed you some cool stuff. You believed in him. You believed his vision. Right? You have the cult of Apple. Right? Everyone believes that Apple's just decimating Windows in business. Right? It's still 86% Windows out there. But you talk to people and they're like, Apple's killing them. It's like, yeah, they're killing them in tablet sales, and yeah, they're killing them in marketing and perception. The reality is Microsoft's still the juggernaut. But anyway. Thinking about that, being able to drive awareness on your terms, being a thought leader, being out there and talking about these things in a passionate way. And we should all be passionate about what we do, about our products. These are our startups that we're talking about. These are our babies that we want to share, right? Inspiring your market. Right now, not all of us have that, right? But we can find ways through the messaging exercise to really understand how can we be inspirational about how we talk about things. And then feeding, all of that will feed the organic engine. One of the top ways to get noticed is through SEO and inbound search optimization. Right? Now you do that, and I'll show you a little trick on that one, but you do that and you start getting that through getting your message out, through being inspirational, speaking about things differently and surfing other people's waves, and that builds your pipeline. Right? So I really believe in what I like to call agile marketing, because the best laid plans die the second they meet the market. So you may have great marketing, you're ready to roll forward and you put it out there, but you got to watch, ever vigilant. Watch your Twitter feed, watch your competition, watch all of them and know where it's going. How are the analysts talking about it? Is it completely different than what you're talking about? Not from a I'm different and people will start to get it and come to me, or am I so out there that it's just not resonating? Be agile. Think about how I can actually change that and react to market conditions. Differentiated content is just key. You can't put out stuff with just a different logo on it. People will not care, right? They'll come out and go, great, more stats. The Internet of Things is going to be $1.2 trillion. Who cares, right? You've got to talk about it differently, right? Right now, Xively is the only one talking about interconnection as a way to empower the Internet of Things, right? That's something we consciously sat down and saw in the market that's what we wanted to talk about because everyone's talking about M2M on the Internet pretty much. So we're talking about what's in the future. Now we solve your immediate problem, but we're talking about it in a differentiated way. Now, social omnipresence, be godlike in your social, but really between Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest is of interest now, pun intended, and then Google Plus, a little bit behind there. Twitter's number one, far and away. Doing, if you can spend some budget on promoted tweets, promoted accounts, it goes a long way. It goes a long way. We just spent 15 grand. That's it, 15 grand and a quarter on a promoted account. We ended up going from 4,900 Twitter followers to over 33,000 in less than 2 months, actually. Now, the actual reach I have with that is over 5.6 million impressions. The second I send out one tweet on something, right? And the second that they retweet that exponentially jumps. Right? That's the power of an inbound strategy. But your social, for not a lot of money, can really give you a lot of that power and reach a large audience. Omnipresence means including physical Remember the original social? You actually walked up to talk to somebody, all right? That's the original social. That's the best way. That's the best social. Get out there, talk to people. Glad hand. Don't be fake, right? Be honest about what you are. If something does something for someone, great. Be proud about it. Talk to them. If it doesn't, then tell them, hey, good luck to you. Hopefully we'll find a solution, or look over here for something. I wish you the best of luck. I got to stop messing with my thing here. Being out there in a physical presence, being at events, talking about those things, very important. And then I use something I like to call the leadership flywheel. And it might be pretty standard, but it seems to work fairly well for us. Hello. There we go. So it all starts at the top with a differentiated message. What is different about your product? What is the value that you're bringing? What is the business value, the personal value? How is it going to change somebody? How is it going to solve their problem today? And then how is it going to give them something that is visionary after that? Right? Start with a differentiated message. That goes from things as simple as blogs all the way up to how you discuss it, your messaging frameworks, all of those things. The message must be different. Look at how other people are talking about it. Talk about kind of the same things, but twist it in a way that makes people go, wow, that is different. We put out press releases around those differentiated messages. We happen to be putting out, we're putting out 3 next week alone. I mean, it's been pretty crazy. I'm surprised you're still awake, but actually I'm surprised all of you are still awake, but hey, we're trying. But so the press release is important around the differentiated message. We always put out some sort of thought leadership blog whenever we put out a press release, because I don't want that opportunity to go out without us having a chance to talk about things differently. How are we looking at these things? Why is whoever did a press release with us coming to us and talking to us? Right? Well, let's put out a thought leadership blog and make people think. Take advantage of that. Right? We like to do video. A lot of the videos very short. I mean, it's amazing the attention span of everyone these days. Thank you, MTV. It seems to be about a minute and a half. Minute and a half, then you start losing people. Right? So building a video that's quick cut, gets your message across, but is referenced throughout all of these things, and then certainly through the social engagement, all the way out through Twitter, talking about these things, that wheel starts to spin. And then you start spinning that wheel enough times with enough messages, enough blogs, enough press releases, all of those things, then it starts spinning and your attention starts to grow very, very quickly. We never want to put out something that's the same. It sounds like everybody else. We never want to put out something that doesn't have that blog twist to it. Then the routes that you actually can go, hello. There we go. So some of the marketing channels, I won't go through all of this, but the 4 main ones, paid, earned, owned, and social. If you actually think of each of these properties, something in social is obviously you want to put out and say, hey man, check this out, and hopefully get somebody to start telling people, hey friend, you need to check this out. Right? Again, putting that out. Earned is when someone notices that and wants to do a piece on you. The BBC coming to us had noticed something we did on a program called the Internet of School Things. So it was a hub we had put out there where kids could not only learn in the UK and in schools, could not only learn their curriculums through Internet of Things devices, which is pretty cool for them, but they could also be taught how to make their own little Arduino things, their own little ARM embed things, and attach it into the system. So not only are they learning in a fun way, but they're learning skills that will actually allow them to be empowered for the next great wave of the digital economy, which is the Internet of Things. So we had, BBC found that, did a whole piece on Internet of Things. Actually, I think we just posted that tonight. Great piece, but we earned that. And then the owned properties, our website, things like that. And then paid media, things like banners, that's more outbound types of things. We're about a 70-30 shop inside of, for us, 30% outbound, 70% inbound. But these 4 areas working in concert is how you really bring those messages out. And again, spin that wheel through them and get your attention. So now, once we've gone through the marketing campaign, start thinking about funding. God, funding's fun. Let me tell you. The way that, I've been through 42 rounds. 42 rounds. it's amazing that I have just a little bit of gray hair I have, really, and I'm still alive, because a lot of times it's the same redundant pitch, same questions, all of those things. And you hear a lot of no's, and you hear a lot of people that put term sheets in front of you that's like, you want 70% of the company for $100,000? I mean, oh my God, it's like, it's a little crazy sometimes what people will do. But there's some things that can help you along that path. The first is get educated. Got to get educated on what funding means. What does pre-money mean? What does post-money mean? What's around? What's pro rata? I mean, we start going down these terms. You have to understand what those mean, what funding terms mean, what you're looking for, what a good deal is, and understand that before you start going anywhere. Now, there are people that can help you with that. Hopefully there's people you understand through Harvard. I'm sure there's some money people in Harvard that you can have connections around that can help you understand some of those terms. But learning how the actual funding vehicles work is really important. Bootstrap as long as possible. That's one of the top 2 advices I can give you for funding. Make sure you bootstrap as long as possible, because at some point you have to price the valuation of the company. You have to price the company. If you have a PowerPoint and someone that waves their arm around a lot, it's going to be a much cheaper price and a lot higher price for capital than if you actually have something that's ready to go to beta, or you have something that has a couple customers. That is a much higher value. You can get more people, more term sheets competing against each other. And you can play them against each other and actually get better terms. A pitch deck is a must. Now, a pitch deck, I know it seems pretty simple and pretty obvious, but a pitch deck is important. Not only does it get across your ideas, but it helps you think through how you actually want to pitch the funding. So a sample pitch deck that I use a lot of times is, what's the team? What's the problem statement? What's the market opportunity? Realistically research your market, by the way. Remember, it's not 5% of a trillion, 0.5% of $1 trillion. No VC will believe that. No credible angel will believe that. What are the current solutions? Why don't those solutions solve the problem? What's your solution? Why it's different? Go-to-market plans, potential partners, because they'll see that as potential exits. And then funding amount, what you need, what it will get them. Right? That's important. If I give you $1 million, cool, you're going to get me a new Porsche, and I'm going to have a bunch of dinners, and maybe you'll get a prototype. Yeah, no. Right? You need to tell them, well, we expect to get this to get to beta, we expect it to be ready for this, those types of things. And then what will get them, then of course your conclusion. What really gets funded? It's in this order. It's team, it's the dream, and it's the potential. The first thing they look at is, who are they investing in? Who are you? Now, you don't have to be anybody. You just have to be competent and credible and come across as knowing what your business is. That's why the research parts of this process are so important. Because if they start asking you questions, believe me, they ask you the most inane questions out there. They start drilling down. You've got to have answers for that. Even if it may not be completely the right answer, or eventually you have a good explanation about where to look, but you'll say you know where to look and you'll go get the answer, that's fine too. But you've got to be credible and understand how to answer these things. The dream, where's it going? Right? This is what it solves today, but that's the hill before the mountain. This is where everything is going. Take this ride and you'll see the next Facebook. I wouldn't quite go that far, but you turn around and actually see the potential. At Softricity, nobody was looking for or Googling a solution that delivers applications anywhere you need them and at any time across the universe, right? They actually needed, strangely enough, in financial services, and particularly Morgan Stanley, that started it all off, they needed to run Excel 97 next to Excel 2000, next to Excel XP. That's what they needed, because the plugins in all 3 of those wouldn't work with the other versions. So they ended up having 3 terminal server sessions to try and have 3 versions of Excel working so that they can make it work. Incredibly cost inefficient. We came in with a solution that said, I'll solve that problem for you right now. Our first major deal, it was like our 3rd deal period, our first major deal, 50,000 seats, $125 a seat. Woohoo! That set the company, right? That set the company, because then we went up and down Wall Street, with that solution, and everybody bought that. You know what Microsoft sells that solution for now? $5 a seat a year. Do you know what their revenue is on that in the last 6 years? $4.79 billion. Crazy, right? So Microsoft, and that's the power of Microsoft, right? $5 solution, but we were able to sell it for $1.25 because we talked about it differently, because we had a vision. And eventually they would see, look, if I did it with just and solve this Excel problem, which I could get recognized right now, here's the vision, where eventually all the apps in my area, no matter what computer I went to, were instantly available for me. Right? Talking about it differently, selling it, that vision is important. But that dream is what you sell next. And then the potential. How much money can you possibly, realistically, conservatively make out of this if it goes forward? And I don't mean by an exit. Nobody wants to hear, well, we'll go public. Well, we'll go sell it out for... You don't talk about any of that. You just talk about what is the potential over the next 5, 6 years if you have a reasonable run rate in a well-spec'd market. Right? That goes further for credibility than anything. So, funding routes, there are more funding routes than this, but the main 4 ones that I pretty much see out there. Self-funding, let me tell you, this is the best option. You don't want a board if you don't need a board of directors, because it's kind of a pain, and a lot of times what the CEO is dealing with the board. Now, I say that kind of tongue-in-cheek. A lot of boards can be very good, because there are things that venture capital companies can do for you that sit on your board. There are strategic people you bring on your board that can help you. At Softricity, we had a guy who was the COO of Adobe. That was pretty nice. And he was also, I forget what the other one was. And then we had another guy who was a vice president or senior vice president out of HP. That was a great one. There are reasons to bring people in. But as farther you can go self-funding, the more you're going to de-risk the actual investment. That's an important thing, because investment is about risk. Yes, greater risk, yes, greater return, but there's a point at which it tips. If it's just something crazy and people aren't going to invest in it, right? So you want to take it as far as you can to that beta, first customer stage. Self-funding will get you there. You'll get a much better valuation for your company if you can do that. Yes, it hurts. If you don't have the money to do it and you scrape and noodle it up. What's the noodles they have in college? I can't even remember now. Thank you, ramen. You ramen it up, and put a little tuna in it and some soy sauce. It's wonderful. I did that for a long time. But you do that, the payoff will come down the road. It's important, because every time you take that extra dollar too soon, that's an exponential amount of money down the line that you have to give back, that you're giving up in the percentage of your company. There's seed and angel people. Now there are people that actually do individual angel funding, so that will fund 2 or 3 angels, act like a venture capital in smaller checks, 500 grand, 750 million, depends on how rich it is. Ellison's out there dropping $3-5 million of stuff as an angel. He can do that, right? But a lot of times you have groups of companies that come together, like Techstars, stuff like that, that you can apply to. They'll take a little bit of your company and they'll give you, well, more than a little bit, and they'll give you money as an angel. Or there's actually a vehicle called subscription funding, which is a really interesting vehicle. So instead of having just a few people, you end up having a minimum investment, 25, 30K, something like that, depends on what the investment is and all of that. And you turn around and get as many people as it takes to fulfill that round for that particular percentage of the company. I'm involved in a company called Newburyport Brewing Company. Has anyone heard of Newburyport Brewing Company? Yes, all right. 1, 2, okay. Yeah, their Greenhead IPA is awesome. Anyway, so these guys started out with a subscription funding. They wanted just 850 grand, and there was a 25K minimum, and you could put in more than 25K. And, nice little funding. These guys oversubscribed to 1.2 million. They were looking to actually hit about a 1.6 million in bookings run rate the first year. They hit it in the first 6 months, which was awesome. So now they're doing a discounted convertible note as a second round. I'm actually doubling down inside of that as well. But they ended up having in the capitalization table, I think there's 52, 56 investors, something like that in that first round. Everyone gets to get a piece of that. That's great. Now it's great from an investor's perspective, but the best part for Newburyport, those guys aren't on their board. It's just money, here you go. Now some of us are working with them on their board so that they can pick and choose and leverage those people to go forward. But it's a great way to actually, a great vehicle to go forward as well in an angel seed round. There's crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is awesome. How many of you heard of Indiegogo, Kickstarter, right? Awesome stuff. Turns around and gives you, money, and I have to just give you a t-shirt, or the first version of my product. Sweet. There's no board member there either, Again, not to be too down on board members. Again, they're positive, they have their place, all of that, they're great. But crowdfunding is a great way for the right projects, and certainly Internet of Things qualifies for those projects to be able to get money, relatively small money. Some can actually get up to $1 million, something I have seen that, and get going very quickly without a lot of return that you have to provide. And then of course there's venture capital. The traditional venture capital can range anywhere from you're an entrepreneur in residence, they pay you a salary while you're working on something, they get a piece of the company as they fund you and you spin out, all the way to A round companies, B round, C round, D or mezzanine round companies. You just got to pick the right company at the right time. Some are really good for tech, some are not. Some are really good at the very early stages. Others, come on, just give you money, don't really do a lot for you. Others do a lot for you, as well when they sit on your board. But you have to research and know they are, right? But again, this is something that you want to get an advisor and help with that. Reach out to networks and understand who can help you in this realm. Now, a really cool thing in crowdfunding, though, is I just read literally today, I cut and paste this, that it looks like the SEC is going to change rules for crowdfunding because today it's illegal to give a piece of the company for that money through a crowdfunding site. So it looks like they're going to change that rule so Kickstarter will end up giving a piece of the company, an ownership of the company, out to you for whatever you put in. That's interesting, good and bad, right? I have access to some things I might not have been able to access to as an investor, but on the other side, what's the fraud going to be like? What's going to happen? Because it's normally an altruistic type of thing like Kickstarter is, it's self-policing. But now when real money starts coming in, who knows? It'll be interesting to see how that actually shakes out, but that is a change that's coming. So there is help. There's all sorts of help. Between tech enablement, hardware platforms are out there. ARM's got them, Akonis, TST, Arduino. You go down the list. You can go out and get those today. Platforms, certainly AWS, Salesforce, Zora for billing. There's a million SaaS companies that can help you. Xively, takes out 70% of that infrastructure for your connected products. We do that for you right now. We actually had a customer spent 12 weeks trying to do it on Amazon for their infrastructure. Could barely get it to work. They stumbled across us one day, connecting their basic prototype up. So you can have an effect. Mobile, big data analytics, tying those things together. Consulting is out there to help you between designers. Extension Engine, great place to come and actually learn about how these things work, and they can help you get things built. Trusted partner of ours. System integrators. Then incubation and funding between Kickstarters, as we talked about, EIR programs, Techstars, different accelerators that are out there, Build-A-Bolts out there, they're around this area. Telcos are starting to change now to actually support some of these models. Well, one telco has one support model. It's slow, it'll come. Contract manufacturing out of China can help you. Certainly support for product and services out of those companies can help you as well. There is help for you out there. Look around for that, seek help. So at the end, execute. That's the fun part, right? Let's roll. Run hard, run fast, have fun. Hopefully not die young, but get out there, do it. It's going to not be easy. It is not easy, You don't sleep a lot, but you know what? Hopefully you wake up in the morning, you're like, wow, this is mine. I get to go out and talk about this. This is something that I get to hopefully go change the world with. It's exciting. All the best laid plans, boom! The second they hit the market, I'm sorry. Was it, God, what is his name? Von Moltke, there you go. No battle plan survives first contact with the enemy. Right? It's very true. Right? The second you put something out there, it will change. That's why I'm a big fan of business strategy and not business plans. Because the second a business plan gets out there, it's going to change. Right? Have a strategy, have a direction you want to go to, but be agile in everything you do. Don't be afraid to fail. You fail, hey, all right, that's okay. That's fine. Learn from it. It's one of the most important things you can do. Now, if you've done your research and you followed kind of the chain that we showed, the failure won't hurt as bad. But everyone's going to fail. It's okay. Pick yourself up. It's how you address that failure, how you come together, how you iterate, pivot, keep going. And I can't say enough that the people that you bring into the business, if at all possible, trust. Try and earn that, have that feeling, and work with them. Pick them up when they're down. There's nothing worse than when things come down and, again, I come back to Softricity. We were within one paycheck of closing the doors. Now, everybody else in the company didn't really know that, but the exec team, we knew that. And we had to get a bridge loan. But we kept battling term sheets, all of that, and literally we were down, we were holding bills and all of that. And finally, the bridge loan came in, and that saved us. And then that got us to our last round, and then Microsoft picked us up. Imagine if we didn't have that. But a lot of us, tense times, right? Everything we've been working for. Oh my gosh. The main reaction is to start, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? Pick each other up, right? It's hard to do, but if you do it and you work as a team, it's a far better experience and the outcomes are far better. And then be the high priest of your own cult, right? Again, you build companies, you get customers, you build cults, you get religion. And religion is what drives people to believe in you even when the chips are down, right? Be out there, be passionate, have people, inspire people. And then you'll be surprised at how many people will actually follow you if you can do that. So Patton, a good plan violently executed today is better than a perfect plan next week. Now I don't want you to go out there and violently execute, your business plans. But, the point is that it's not always going to be perfect. When you feel that you get to market, you have that minimum viable product, get there, go do it, get out. And then see what doesn't work, see what does work. Iterate, pivot, iterate. Keep moving forward. So in conclusion, I love the quotes, leaders are made, they are not born. They are made by hard effort, which is the price which all of us must pay to achieve any goal that is worthwhile. All of the things that I'm showing you inside of this path is not easy. They're necessary. It's almost the minimum to actually really move things forward in a lot of ways, except if you made Angry Birds, okay? That's different, I'm sorry. But realize that anything that you're going to build is going to require this amount of love, this amount of tension, this amount of effort, and sweat, blood, and tears moving this thing forward. But if you do it, and it's successful, or even if it fails, you're going to have an amazing experience that you'll not only learn from, but you're going to take it to the next one, do it even better, and I guarantee there will be a point that you will have that success, and you can say, I did it, and I did it from the ground up. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're opening up for some questions. Yeah, I think there's a couple questions open. So if there are any questions, we can walk around and ask those questions. If anybody's got any. Oh, there's a question.
Hey, Chad.
Hi, Bob.
So my favorite quote about the planning one is Mike Tyson, that everyone has a plan until they get hit.
Yeah.
And so anyways, I thought that made me laugh. Can you give me an example of either a crowdsourced or an early stage, Internet of Things? What's happening at the front lines of the market right now? Because there's got to be hundreds of cool stories, and I'm excited to
There is, but the Sox threw their first pitch out.
Exactly.
I'm just kidding.
Actually, it's we got time. It's 8:07.
Oh, wait a second. Oh, right. Not to duck your question. So the question, how many cool stories are out there in a crowdfunding way? So one that's really, really interesting is called Canary that I've seen. Actually, there's a couple ones, but one is Canary. Canary is an air quality monitor, smoke detector. What else do they do? A carbon monoxide detector, fire detector. They're a Sentry as well with a camera, sound detector, and infrared at night as well. And literally all you do is you take this thing out of the box, connect it to your Wi-Fi, and then plug it in the corner. It also has a siren on the thing. So literally from your phone, you have a complete security system, home protection system, all in one very simply connected thing right on your smartphone or your tablet or your PC. That went to crowdfunding, and that, I believe, was only looking for around 200 grand. They went over $1 million. Boom, like that. 60-day Kickstarter, right? Now, there's no upper limit typically on Kickstarter. It's just time. So you turn around and you end up having, that amount of money come in. Now, that company is off and running, right? Another really cool one, actually, is on a much smaller scale. 13-year-old girl had a really cool idea where, she misses her dog, and she wanted a way to be able to take her smartphone, talk to her dog, and give her dog a cookie, right? And it turns out her dog's a Bernese Mountain Dog. I have a Bernese Mountain Dog, so instantly I love this Kickstarter, right? The video was awesome. But so what she came up with the help of her father, who's a double E, they came up with a little system that basically put an iPod Touch with FaceTime and built some software on that onto a little cookie dispenser, and had a little speaker on top of it as well, so that she could turn around, put it on, and say, my dog's name's Macallan. I love Scotch. So he's like, Macallan, come here. The dog would come up, lick the phone, and he could drop a cookie, good girl. So if you're away, I travel a lot, you're able to very easily reward your dog can see you, and hey, cool, and still have that connection with your dog. They feel good, you feel good, everybody feels good, right? That Kickstarter ended up starting out, I think they only wanted something like 10 grand they ended up with over, I think it was $132,000 for that thing. And it's the most basic Internet of Things thing, right? But it's amazing. A 13-year-old girl came up with that. That's awesome. By the way, I'm a big fan of kids because kids' minds are really, unfettered by all the junk that we've had shoved in there over time that narrows our thinking in a lot of ways. They don't have that. They're just like, look at that. We're like, wow, that's brilliant. You must be a genius. No, it's been there all the time. It's just, we just overlook simple things that kids just see, right? So I love that story as well. But there are other ones that we've seen that are outside the crowdsourcing that are going for more traditional venture, which are kind of interesting. One is a company that, if you look at hospitals and hospice care, you end up having intravenous drug pumps so that you can actually have automated delivery of drugs, and a nurse can magnify her presence through technology. Unfortunately, the electromechanical pumps inside those things started killing people. Back in about 2010, FDA came in and put a moratorium on them. So the nurse had to go walk to where the pump is and actually watch it work. That kind of kills the whole point of the pump, right? The remote pump. So a company came in, looked at that as a platform, created a pneumatic air-based system to replace that electrical mechanical pump, tied it to something called an electric imp board, actually used our technology to remote connect that as well. They went into clinical trials. Those guys went from 45 nursing incidences a week with those pumps to 0, 100% efficacy, right? And they did that over about a 2-week trial. So incredible, right? Existing platforms, simple change, right? Internet connected, and it's solving a huge problem. They're on a fast track with the FDA now for approval, which means, okay, 8 years instead of 20, but anyway. But these things are real, right? The funding that they're going to get, they've got people lined up for them. They're not even sure what their valuation is going to be yet, on top of that. But the terms will be really good because it works, right? They got past that bootstrap process. Any other questions?
How did you, the big numbers you started out with, where it was, billions or trillions of dollars, the big numbers that you start out with on segmentation or on the market size, the segmentation, like, how do you think about segmenting the IoT? Wearables, home, industrial. Like, what are the
keep going?
What are the big buckets? And if you wanted to get smart on those, who are the thought leaders in those categories? Where would you send us and the people here to go? In addition to your blog and your flywheel, who do you guys see as the thought leaders, and who do you look to as your sort of colleagues when you're sitting on top of this flywheel?
So there's a lot of people that are out there talking about this. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of great stuff that's out there. I think one of the best places to start is a place called Postscapes.com. So Postscapes actually takes all things IoT and collects it together between all sorts of different sources, between product companies, their blogs, between analysts, researchers, all of those things, and brings them together in a pretty cool way to go searching and talk to them. Machina Research is doing a lot of stuff on this constellation. Andy was just here earlier doing great stuff on that. Gartner, Forrester all has good information. IDC. Cisco is putting out a lot of really good information around it right now because they're pumping up their own Internet of Everything. But at the same time, the data that's coming out is really good. So the buckets are, there's a lot of them, right? There's industrial, light industrial, quantified self, medical, oil and gas. Literally you could go on and on and on. I think the spectrum that I've seen is probably 25 to 30, but literally you can start breaking that down into thousands. Well, right now we're seeing a lot of traction in light industrial, which is pretty good. So anything that is turning on and off pumps, right? You think back to the primitives, right? To turning on and off pumps, looking at our doors open and close and for when deliveries come in and things like that. All of those areas are really good. Oil and gas is actually red hot, I think in this area also. And that's really from an enterprise type solution. Of course, home automation, is a big one. We do believe that consumer home automation ends up being kind of a race to the bottom because there's so many people doing it, and you have big players like Xfinity and ADP and all of that coming into it. So the margins are going to be lower, but hey, it's still a huge broad market out there. We view that even our competition, which our main competition is do-it-yourself on Amazon, but with people like Cisco coming, all of that, a rising tide floats all boats. It's $1 trillion market. It's great. If you don't have any competitors, be afraid, right? You may want to litmus test your idea, but you could be out ahead of the market. You never know. But anyway, yeah, it's a pretty wide spectrum. Cool. Yes.
So I guess is the connectivity reliable enough?
Well, it depends on. So the question is the connectivity reliable enough? It just depends on what the use case is, right? So if I end up having something that's, what was it in Homeland? You had the guys, the vice president's pacemaker was internet connected, and Brody interrupted it, and they killed the vice president. That was a little scary, but hopefully the connection wasn't that reliable. That would have been better. But no, so it depends on the solution, right? So you have we're working with Notre Dame, who actually has, I know Notre Dame, boo, lower institution, that ends up having a solar farm in Uganda, right? So the solar farm has these tracking modules that are regulating how much energy is coming out. They're tracking all of those things. What's the temperature of the actual panel, all that sort of stuff. The only problem is trying to get that information all the way from Uganda is very difficult, right? So they end up having a storage that's local, and then they have someone come and collect as they can inside of that to get the resolution to an intermediary, and then you come in and get your data off of that.
Right.
So
I guess part of what when you said the FDA thing with the pneumatic pump, and
right.
is that actually going up to the internet and then down to some other monitoring
It
space?
is, right? So the security, and part of what we do is secure that end to end. But if you think about it in design, it's not, you don't want to design something that says, okay, I'm going to push the button on the laptop, and then it's going to send a signal and say, okay, pour, or inject, stop. Because if something happens and this thing sticks in an injection point, that's not good, right? But what you would do is send the command down to it and say, this is the prescription I'm going to give at this time, and it programs it locally. So the communication is out of the critical path at that point. Then it says, okay, at this time I've met my schedule, now do it, and it has all the safeguards on the local system that's redundant. So it just depends on how you design it, what the case is. And some of these things aren't fit for just regular internet stuff, even if it is secured quite yet. They will have closed networks, some of them like ATM networks, stuff like that. And they're starting to come out on the internet, but they're still pretty much closed loop systems, things like that. There are certain cases the Internet of Things just won't be that great for a while. Okay. Cool. Great. Yes, in the back?
In this space, there are so many players. How is Zively differentiating? And second, you said stealth your strategy until you have done the groundwork. Moving forward, how do you protect that? Or do you think you have taken enough of consideration to make sure that your competitors don't jump in after 6 months and execute that?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, how does Zively differentiate itself? First of all, so as a division of LogMeIn has a cloud that we own the brick and mortar data centers of this cloud. We've owned them for 11 years. We've done nothing but connect devices, smart tablets as they rose, PCs, users, data. We use an infrastructure called Gravity that actually takes those 7 data centers and is a combination of an infrastructure as a service and a platform as a service that all of our things are written on. So this whole next extrapolation of the Internet of Things is just, much smaller computers that can either do, a little bit less or do a little bit more, or the same thing, right? So we already understand how to deal with that. So we acquired a company called PatchBay. Some of you might call it Pachube, P-A-C-H-U-B-E, and another brilliant fit of bad naming, even though I love Usman Haq, who was their founder. But we bought that company. It was right on the edge. Originally, they were let's bring all these devices together, make that really easy, and then open source the data, right? So you can turn around and freely use that data. We found that after it got acquired, and then we came out with a beta named Cosm, that people wanted to build products on it. So we took all those requirements in over an 8-month beta, and based on our platform, built that into it. So now, we think we've cracked the code on supporting literally the thousands of platforms that are out there, the millions of gateways, the billions of phones. We can support that, normalize it through an API, and have an app easily, interact with it. Any app, web service, smart tablet, PC, whatever, right? So that crux of the middle part where I put on that, everyone's problem, we solve 70% of that problem. Like I said before, and we do it in a way that's not just, oh look, I've got this, messaging system up on the internet and I ran it up onto Amazon. Great, and look, things are working, right? No way to scale that, no way to secure that. Do you even have the knowledge to secure that, right? Oh, there's a lot of OpEx inside of there. Can you do predictive pricing on Amazon? Not really, because how much bandwidth is being used, it goes on and on and on. We built the platform specifically for this in a flat fee, pennies per month, to get these things working. And again, we have people that are actually literally taking their things, their prototypes, and having them up and working in a basic communication, in a day, right? So our main competition is do-it-yourself on Amazon. It's mainly a perceptual thing. IBM has got a huge program with Smart Planet, but that's mainly global services and a PowerPoint, it turns out. But they're very smart, and they're out there, and they'll definitely come in and consult you and help you with all of that. That's great. Certainly, Apple's starting to talk about it. They talk about changing the user interface for living. It's pretty cool marketing. I'm a little jealous, with my marketing hat on. But so they're eventually going to come. Then you have other smaller platforms out there, but all of them are built on Amazon. So hey, there's great things. Most people don't want to focus on the infrastructure though. They want to focus on the app. The app builder or the hardware, their special hardware, or some other value-add service that you have to have the hardware, the infrastructure for. A lot of those people are looking at tying into us because they just don't want to get in that business. We're already in that business. So it's we're kind of the Switzerland of the IoT when it comes to that. Right? So our value is pretty high. Plus we already have 3.5 years experience, rolling through, especially from the PatchPay acquisition. So, and then second question again was, competition. How do you keep your competition from jumping on things? Well, there's certainly patent strategies and all of that stuff that you keep to go through and protect your IP. But at the end of the day, people will come. You build something. If you build it, they will come. It's like competition will come because it's going to be a good idea. Other people are going to see it, and that is accelerating now, right? By the time you go out and have your differentiated message, say, "Look at me," well, guess what? You just told all your potential competition, "Look at me." It's like great. They'll come and look at you. It's going to happen. But the whole thing is iterate. Iterate, iterate, stay ahead of it, talk differently about it, tout that next customer win. Nothing goes further than a use case, a use study with a customer. The second you get those, you tout those, and then it becomes real, and then that wheel starts spinning again. Stay ahead on the thought leadership, right? I'm starting to see our stuff, being repeated all over the place. Great, that means I'm onto something, right? Then people understand where they heard it first, and I'm going to keep iterating on that. My next website major update, or pretty decent updates, November 11th, if I could ever finish the messaging. But I think that's why Janice is really here. She's going to tackle me afterwards, make me finish the messaging. But that's the next step of what's going to happen out of this, because now we start talking, right now we talk a lot about platforms like that, but we're spinning into business value, much more about business value instead of just initial platform value, because we understand much more about the market. That's the other thing too. You're going to learn as you get out there so much about what's going on in market. Once you get that, that's going to help you better inform how you talk about these things. You keep that edge of differentiation and how you talk about these things as you learn that, and then the next iteration stays that step ahead as somebody else is still talking about stuff you talked about 3 months ago. Yes?
So it sounds like an infrastructure service play right now?
Platform as a service in a way, yeah.
So who owns the data in this? And do you have plans to sanitize and monetize the data that's coming in? Because I think that's
huge.
Huge.
Huge. We made a concerted decision early on that the data is yours and yours alone. We don't touch it in our service. We'll make our money. We'll make our money on devices and things like that. It's a pretty small charge that we charge, but we're going to make it because we'll have a nice annuity as it builds over time. And we're a public company. We're our run rate is about 138 million for last year, 200 million in the bank, zero debt. We're a public company. It's all on the internet, so you find that. So we don't have to worry about the next round. We have cash coming in, so we don't have to turn around and do weird things, to try and make money. Now, if that data will become valuable over time once it gets to big data, right? It's not a big data yet. It's not going to be big data for another year and a half, something like that, right? It's all little data. We like to call it little big data. Now, the little data eventually gets to be big data, but it's going to take a while to get there as more things come on, right? Now, when we get there, if there is a market for data, then we'll ask you, hey, we're thinking about opening up a data mart. Would you like to participate and then share revenue with you? But the data is yours. It is completely private from the get-go because it has to be. You can't trust a company that says, oh, we're going to take your data from this private medical device pump. I mean, I would never put my stuff on that infrastructure without that promise of that privacy level. Right, so we believe the data is yours. Cool. Any other questions? Oh, that's only season 1. Sorry, spoiler alert. Now in Breaking Bad, no.
Sorry, I've got to talk to the microphone.
Which, by the way, was the most perfect ending I've ever seen in a TV show.
Oh, I was hoping they'd fade to black.
Yeah.
I'm an ICT4D, and I'm really excited by the combination of this revolution of the cheap. By the way, I love that phrasing, with the mixture of IoT. And I'm just wondering if you kind of see what sort of opportunities you see in actually like the developing world, like not just emerging markets, but just least developed countries.
Right. Well, it's interesting in, in Africa, there's one, God, what's the, I forget which country it is now. It's Nigeria, or I forget. But there's a, it's amazing that cellular technology is actually making its way out there, but it's old clamshells, right? And really, people use the SMS, on that more than anything. Now, in a lot of those areas, you end up having, water is an incredibly valuable thing, and some people walk 3 hours with water. I don't know, have you guys ever heard of Charity Water? Amazing story, right? They're just here at Inbound and stuff. If you haven't seen them, look into them. They have a video on that kind of story. But, you walk 3 hours, hot sun and all of that, and you show up and all of a sudden there's a line that's 5 hours, and that was the situation, and then you get your water, then you got to walk back 2 or 3 hours, and it's night, it's dangerous, all of those things. So what Internet of Things was able to do was tie into those systems, watch the flow monitoring, and then started doing, again, it's a supply chain optimization problem, or pickup optimization problem, and they would actually text based upon the rate of water that was being spent to different areas so that they ended up having a continuous line that was always moving. So you knew that you walked those 2 hours, as soon as you got there, the line would just move with you. You got your water, you picked up, and you could turn around and walk right back. So the round trip was 4 hours, and they knew how far you were coming, so they would ping you at the right time so you could do it during the day. Right? So the amount of people they could actually get through without waiting, was huge. And they did it through a very simple thing where they internet connected, actually it was through satellite connection, these water stations, and people would operate them, and they'd watch the rate that would come through, and the people that came through and timed that actual schedule just through simple text. Right? That's a powerful thing, and it saves people's lives, makes it a lot easier. Man, I can't imagine walking 2 hours, for anything. I tried to run the JP Morgan Chase. I thought I was going to die, let alone, I'm more a lifting athlete, than actually, have to walk that far. So there are things, the Uganda Solar Project, actually the solar panels that are out in Uganda through the Notre Dame project actually power a school, a library, and some of their water stuff, and a couple internet stations. Right, so now that whole solar array is helping kids learn, helping that town. Now it can't run the whole town, right? But it's actually helping them just in that little area. And then I can remotely be able to, the Notre Dame can actually look at that remotely, see how much power they can learn from that, make it more efficient, all of those things as well. There's a couple great, good examples of how it's helping. But again, it's limitless, really. I mean, you can think back to those primitives. What else, can you have? I mean, crop irrigation, those types of things. What if part of your, your property's, super dry, but the other part happens to run right next to an aquifer that you don't even know? Do I have to water the whole thing? No. I'd be able to have sensors to water when, all of that stuff. I mean, it's incredible what could happen, with all those things. But those are 2 cases I know off the top of my head. Anybody else? All right. Excellent. We're out 5 minutes early. Thank you very much, everybody. Really appreciate you attending, and enjoy some food, and go Sox.